Good evening, everyone, and welcome to what seems to be becoming a bit of a weekly thing, which is nice. So this week I wanted to talk a little bit about sleep, because we all want good sleep. We all know how important it is for our health, our well-being, our mood, our sanity, and everything else. But I know that for many people, sleep can be elusive. So I wanted to give you some natural tips to improve sleep, to show you or talk about a little relaxation technique that you might want to use, especially if you're struggling to get to sleep, but you can also use it if you wake in the night and then want to drop off again. And also to do a little bit of tapping about sleep. And I did run a little survey in my group this week, or in the page this week, just asking people which was the biggest problem for them. Was it getting to sleep, or was it waking in the night? And waking in the night seemed to be the bigger thing, seemed to be more of a problem from the people that answered that. So I'll try and cover both off when we do the tapping as well. But I just want to talk about a few things. So ideally, in a perfect world, we need a good block of 5 hours to go through all our sleep cycles. So that's the optimal, if you can at least get a block of 5 hours solid sleep. And I know in some situations that isn't possible if you've got children, or young children especially, that wake up. If you've got a partner that snores, noisy neighbours, there can be a number of different things that might keep you awake. But ideally, 5 hours of solid sleep is great to aim for. And of course, we should be aiming for between 7 and 9. Everybody's different. But most people, I think women need a little bit more actually, but for most people, between 7 and 9 hours is ideal. So a few things, I'm sure some of these you've heard or you've tried and maybe they've helped a bit or haven't really, or you've tried them in the past and then forgotten about them. So hopefully this will be a bit of a reminder. So if you wake in the night with a busy brain, which is really common, or if you struggle to get to sleep because you've got a busy brain, I recommend a block of paper, so like an A4 or a smaller pad, and a pencil. And the reason for a pencil, not a pen, or you could use a felt tip, but you want to be able to lie down and write, not have to sit up and write. So a biro will stop working if you're lying down. So using a pencil, so just being able to get all those thoughts out of your brain onto the paper can really help, just knowing that you've got your list, because often we lie there thinking, I mustn't forget to do such and such and such and such, and that keeps us awake, which is obviously a bit crazy. Whereas if we know we've written it, it's on the paper, and especially when we got busy things going on in our lives, we're organising something, we're really busy at work, there's something going on in life, it's really great just to have that. And then in the morning you can wake up, look at your bit of paper. You can also use that technique just to write your worries down, even if they're not things to do, but just to write down the things that you're worrying about. Because so often the things that are bothersome at 3 a.m, come 8 o'clock the next morning, we look at it and go, really? That's not such a big deal. So sleep is a really big deal, and in the middle of the night we tend to get more anxious, more fearful, and there are reasons for that. But let's just keep the piece of paper, pen by the bed, or pencil, and then get your list down. Other advice, you probably heard this, you may not have followed it. Things like mobile phones, laptops, iPads, and so on, emit a blue light. You can actually change them on tablets and phones, but that blue light stimulates part of the brain called the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is the part of your brain which governs your sleep cycles. So it's the bit that knows whether it's day or night, which of course we're so out of kilter with that because we have artificial lights in our houses. So back in the days when we lived in caves, we would have gone to sleep quite soon after it was dark and the fire had died down and woken up at first light. But we've kind of moved away from that, haven't we? So You don't want the pineal gland being stimulated before you go to sleep, because otherwise your brain's thinking, well, it's morning, it's waking up time. So get rid of those things for at least an hour before bed. Really highly recommend that. And I know lots of people use their mobile phone as an alarm clock. You know, an alarm clock costs about £10. Go and buy one. Have one that doesn't make a ticking noise, so it's silent, and that doesn't have any luminous hands. So get one that's dark and has a nice gentle beep to wake you up in the morning. But go and buy an alarm clock. Get your phone, get all your electronics out of the bedroom. So that includes radio, alarm clock. I have to say that includes television. Really not fond of TVs in the bedroom, because even when they're turned off, electronic items do have a kind of buzzy, there's a kind of a hum. And I would also include in that electric blankets, which might cause a few cries of protest, but I'm a big fan of a hot water bottle anyway. So I would say get your electrics out of your bedroom. So some people would even argue you shouldn't have bedside lamps, but I have bedside lamps and I have an alarm clock, and that's about it. My bedroom's very low tech, I think you could say. At least 3 or 4 days a week, I would aim, if you can, obviously if you're working shifts and funny hours, it's not always possible, but try and be in bed, ready to sleep by 10:30. So that your mum might have said to you the hours before midnight are the most important, and she was right. So the hours, or the time between 10 p.m. and midnight, is actually really important, because that is when your cortisol, your adrenal glands, all gets processed, and it only does it in that time slot. So if you're not asleep, and it only does it when you're resting, so if you're not asleep, or at least trying to sleep, then your cortisol, your adrenals get worn out. So it is really important to try and sleep between 10:30 and midnight, well, ideally until morning, a few days a week. And if you're anything like me, you get to 10:30, you think, right, I'll go to bed now. But then it is at least half an hour later, isn't it, when you turned off the light, because you do a whole list of jobs before you go. So start planning to go to bed at 10. So, start going to bed half an hour before you actually want to be sleeping. Waking in the night. If you are waking up, especially between 1 and 3, and especially if you feel a bit hungry or a bit jittery, it can actually be because your blood sugar's dropped, and that's not uncommon. So the way to get around that is before bed to have either a carby snack or a mix of carbs and protein. So slow releasing carbohydrates like some oats is really good, or something like a banana with a bit of nut butter. So something with quite a bit of carbohydrate, but mix it with a bit of protein. That is ideal. And just have, or a bit of apple, or even some leftovers from dinner. If there's something with a mix of protein and carb in it, just have a couple of mouthfuls of that, and often that will be enough to sustain your blood sugar at an even keel through the night. But when your blood sugar drops, even if it is in the night, it can make you feel anxious, so consider that. Exercising, obviously we love exercise, it's a great thing to do, but actually if you exercise late at night, you've got all those endorphins going, and you get a bit of a buzz. I don't think restorative yoga counts as exercise, so that's okay, but you need to try and avoid doing that if sleep is a problem for you, if you find you're buzzy. I remember years ago I used to love salsa dancing, and I used to go to a salsa class every week. And I got home probably about 10:30. It was something like a Wednesday night. Had to get up for work quite early the next day. And I was just on a high. I was buzzing. I couldn't get to sleep after that. So, it was obviously, dancing is kind of an evening sort of thing to do, but it's not great if you've got to get up early the next day. Better to do it a weekend. Caffeine. I had a really interesting conversation with a friend the other day who drinks a lot of green tea, and she said she was waking about 7 times a night. And I said, have you thought about changing your green tea? Because green tea has caffeine in it. Okay, so does normal black tea and coffee, obviously chocolate too. So it might be worth swapping out your green tea for another sort of herbal tea, and be prepared that you might get headaches if you just cut it out. But often people can drink caffeine, so I can drink caffeine up to about 1 in the afternoon, but I choose not to have any after that. So that's certainly a factor. And on the subject of drinks, alcohol, it can make us think that we're really tired and that we're going to sleep well, but often it will disturb the quality of sleep, depending on how much you've had, of course. So other herbal teas instead of green tea, or normal tea and coffee, builder's tea. This is something you may not know. So when we go to bed, the best way to regulate our temperature, if you lie on your left-hand side first for 10 minutes, as you're dropping off to sleep or getting comfortable, that will help to equalize, get you at a comfortable body temperature. I know it sounds crazy, and there is a reason for it, all to do with the breathing, which I won't go into, but lie on your left side and that will help your body to get to the right temperature, and then lie on your right side or on your back, wherever you normally sleep. So that's a good thing to try. And supplement wise, I don't talk too much about supplements, but so many people are deficient in magnesium, and magnesium is really important for good quality sleep. So I would highly recommend trying a magnesium supplement. And personally, I like a spray that you spray on your legs. I just think it gets absorbed into the skin, into the body, and the body takes it where it's needed. A lot of the magnesium supplements, the pills, are full of fillers, so to bulk them out. So I personally like the spray ones, and you can get them that are infused with essential oil. So you can buy magnesium oil in health shops and online. So spray a bit on your legs, on your arms. You often find it's a bit stingy when you first use it, which means you need it. So it probably means that you're a bit deficient. So you might just start with a couple of sprays per leg or something, and then build up over time. But I would highly recommend trying magnesium if you do struggle with sleep. So I'm just going to talk you through a little relaxation technique that you can try to promote sleep. And then we're going to do a little bit of my favourite, tapping, of course, because a video wouldn't be a video without a tap, would it? Okay, so a nice relaxation technique to try is to lie on your back and just start to focus on your breathing. So if you've done any sort of meditation, mindfulness work, there would have been breath stuff. Okay, and I really like the breathing pattern of in for 3 and out for 5, because that puts us into what's called our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our calm state. Okay, and the more you do it, in for 3, out for 5, the more your body recognizes that, oh, it's time for calm, it's time to calm down. Okay, so just, excuse me, I've got a bit there. I'm going to just blow my nose. There we go, sorry about that. So the more you do it, the more you practice that technique and that breathing pattern, the better. And think about just making the inhale as long and as deep as you can. So imagine you're breathing into your belly button, which of course you're not, but it's that kind of sensation. You want the belly to rise. And then on the out breath, the longer out breath, just think about letting all the air go. Generally speaking, most people breathe in okay, but don't breathe out properly. Okay, and I only realised about a year ago that I wasn't either, and probably haven't been for most of my life. So I wasn't that good on the exhale, and so I began to practice and become really conscious of it to improve it. Okay, so you've got your breathing into a nice routine, and then just breathe normally. You can take your attention away from that. And then just think about all the muscles in your feet, and just tightening up the muscles in your feet as you lie there in bed. Just on the inhale, tighten them, and on the exhale, let them go. And you might want to hold for a few seconds at the top. If you find your feet are cramping up, then don't do it too much. And maybe spray a bit of magnesium on your feet as well. That will help with cramp. And then you tighten up your calf muscles, and then your thighs, This is each in turn. So a big breath in, tighten that group of muscles and release, and then moving up the body. Then your bum, then your abdominal muscles, then your shoulders, and then your arms and your fists. So you might want to clench up your fists on a big in-breath and then let it go. And then screw up your whole face. I'm not going to do that on the in-breath. And then releasing it. And then you can do the whole body. So on a really big in-breath, just think about feet, calves, thighs, bum, tummy muscles, shoulders, arms, face, everything, all scrunched up. And on the out-breath, let it go. And that can be a really nice way just to help everything. Sometimes we don't realise how much tension we're holding, and it can be a really nice way just of letting it all go before you go to sleep. Okay. So we're just going to do a little bit of tapping, and I just want you to think about your own sleep pattern, because I'm not a big fan of tapping scripts, although they have their place, because we all are so different. So just think about your own sleep, whether it is getting to sleep or waking in the night or both. That's okay. Just think back to the last time you had a pretty rubbish sleep. Might have been last night, or it might have been a week ago, or whenever, doesn't matter. Just think about what came up for you when you're trying to sleep. Okay, so people sometimes say to me, yeah, there's no emotion, I just can't sleep. And I don't believe them. There is always emotion. Often people get anxious because there's often anxiety that you've got loads to do tomorrow, and if you can't sleep, how are you going to be able to do it? How are you going to perform? Or you might just be like, oh, here we go again. So resigned, I suppose you could call that. Frustration, some people get upset, get angry. So there's usually an emotion to do with the not being able to sleep, and it might be more than one emotion. That's fine. Okay. You might be worried. Anxiety is a big thing, and of course there's cause and effect there, isn't there? Anxiety keeps us awake, but it also, is a cause, or it's something that happens when we do wake. So it works both ways with anxiety. We worry about our health. Our brain is whirring, and you might not even have a word for that apart from my brain is whirring. But often that will be accompanied by some tension in the body which you may not be aware of. So a worry brain might indicate that the adrenal glands are going a bit on overdrive. So actually you might, when you do the exercise we just did with the clenching the muscles, you might realise that you're holding a lot of tension as well in your body. You may commonly experience bad dreams or nightmares, and so you might be a bit afraid of going to sleep in case you go into a bad dream. That's not uncommon, especially children as well. If you've got children and they've had a history of bad dreams, you may have seen that they're quite scared to go to sleep because they don't want to go back there. Okay, so you can use this for that fear as well. But often it's worries. It's often worries about things at home or at work or with family, something going on, or the state of the planet. A lot of people worry about that. Maybe you're worrying about contagion, viruses, planetary collapse, politics, things that are well out of your control. So there can be numerous things that could be keeping you awake at night. So I just want you to have a think about those. If you've got pen and paper handy, you might want to write down all the things that apply to you. And I'm just going to go through the tapping a little bit, but you can obviously repeat, just depending on whatever's true for you. And those of you that are tappers, I'm not going to use all the tapping points, just purely because it makes it a little bit easier for people if we use fewer. So we start on the side of the hand. By the way, I put the earphones in today because I had a clean out of my office, and I changed my pictures around because I used to have this in behind me, and I was talking to a friend of mine this week, and she said, oh, you look like you're in a Methodist church. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll change some stuff around there. Anyway, so I took out some things, and it's quite echoey, so that's why I'm now using the the microphone. I think it helps probably with the echo, or to diminish the echo. Okay, enough waffle. Let's take a breath in, my favourite, in for 3 and out for 5. And once more. Okay, so just tune in to where the emotion is that you feel. It might just be frustration or worry or anxiety, stress, anger. When you can't sleep, tune into that. And I'm going to invite you to name it in your own head or out loud. If you want to speak out loud, that's fine. Repeat after me. Even though I have this emotion, whatever it is, when I can't sleep or I wake up in the night, but right now I accept that that is how I feel. Even though I have this emotion, whether it's frustration or anger or sadness or upset or irritation or anxiety, when I wake up in the night or when I can't get to sleep, or both, I accept that this is how I feel right now. Once more, even though I have all of this emotion when I can't get to sleep or I wake up in the night, I accept that that is how I feel at the moment. Okay, just tapping right on top of the head, this emotion in my body, tapping on the inside of the eyebrow, all of this emotion that I feel around my sleep, tapping on the outside of the eye, this emotion I feel when I can't get to sleep or when I wake in the night, under the eye, all of this emotion that I feel under the nose. I feel so much emotion, whether it's frustration or anxiety or worry or fear. Under the mouth, all the emotion that I feel around my sleep patterns. Tapping on the collarbone, get that side. All of this emotion. And under the arm. Just at bra line level, if you're not familiar with the points. All the emotion that I feel around my sleep patterns. Okay, just want you to take a big breath. Now what you can do, if you can't get to sleep or if you wake in the night, you can either tap on these points. If you're with someone in bed, you might not want to disturb them. So it sounds a bit bonkers, but you can do this. You might also feel it's a bit cold and you don't want to take your arms out under the covers. But you can think about tapping on the points, and that's fine. It does seem to work just as well. I know it sounds crazy. That's okay. So when you think about your sleep, if there's still emotion coming up for you, I invite you just to repeat that round. You might need to do it another 2, 3, 4, 5 times. That's fine. Just trying to get the level of that emotion, the intensity of the emotion reduced a little. And now I'm just going to do a round of tapping on the possibility that it could be different. Because sometimes we're so stuck in a pattern, we can't imagine it being any other way. So, even though I have all these problems with my sleep, with waking, with not being able to get to sleep, I accept that it may be possible to have a really good night's sleep. Now that might be hard for you to say if you are someone who has never slept well or hasn't slept well for years. But, you know, we're just opening up that option to you. Even though I have had so many sleep problems and I continue to, getting to sleep, waking in the night, poor quality sleep, feeling tired, I accept that it could be different. Even though I have had sleep problems on and off or on for a long time, I accept the possibility that it may be possible for me to sleep well. Top of the head. All these sleep problems I've had inside the eyebrow, but maybe it could be different. Outside the eye, Maybe I could get a really good night's sleep under the eye. Maybe there is a possibility of me sleeping well. Tapping under the nose. Maybe I could get a really good night's sleep. Tapping under the mouth. Maybe I could sleep for as long as my body wants to. Tapping under the collarbone. Maybe it is possible for me to get a really good night's sleep and wake up feeling refreshed. Tapping under the arm. I know that if I could get some decent sleep, I would feel so much better. Okay, and just tapping next to, on the side of the hand rather. Big breath in and out. Okay. Right, just notice how that feels. And again, if sleep is a real issue for you, I would invite you to repeat this. And of course, working with a practitioner is the best thing you can possibly do to really uncover the underlying reasons why your sleep isn't great. Because our reasons are always different, and a lot of people have kind of generic issues going on. But actually, if you have experienced quite a lot of trauma in your life, or some really significant unwanted events, whatever they may be, then working with a practitioner can get to some sort of resolution with those, and that can make a big difference in terms of sleep. I worked with a woman a couple of years ago who witnessed something really terrible when she was a child. She was probably 3 or maybe 4 or 5 years old, but she witnessed an awful thing happen. And it wasn't until, and she's probably at least in her 50s now, but it wasn't until we actually were sort of what I call joining the dots. So we were looking at past traumatic events and how they can affect our present, that she actually made the connection between this event and her sleep. And after we'd done some work on it, she had one of her best night's sleep ever, that she could ever remember. Because the trauma can sort of lodge in your brain, right into your subconscious. You don't even really know it's there, but it's impacting on your day-to-day life. And sleep is a big, it's how we process what's gone on in the day. So if there's something lodged in there that hasn't yet been dealt with or acknowledged and has maybe been buried, sometimes it just gently needs to be brought out and aired and to come to terms with it. Okay, we can't change the past, but we can change how we feel about the past. We can change how we feel about things that have happened. So working with a practitioner can be really powerful. So I hope that has been helpful, and I would love to know how your sleep is after today, after doing that. So give it a try all those techniques. I expect to see places littered with unwanted electronic equipment as you clear out your bedrooms, and I realise it might be a bit of an issue with your partner, but you have great powers of persuasion. I know that you can do this, or just tell them, sorry, the TV's going. But see how you go, change things around and see what difference that makes to your sleep, because if you can get good sleep, the quality of your days becomes magnified a million times, just becomes so much better. Living life when you've had good rest. Thank you so much for being here. If you'd like anything in particular next week, please let me know and I will be back. All right, bye-bye.